Pleasure to be with you folks. This is a very important process you folks are involved with. And every one of us in the state of Kansas are trying to figure out where's all the money gone? Where have we gone to educate our kids? And what can we do to make this job a little more effective? So before I move too far into the presentation, I want to make sure that you're aware that this is going to be a two-part. First, we're going to look at the cost-benefit analysis of previous spending. Now, that's pretty important. We'd like to find out where $3 billion of excess money has gone. That's pretty important. Then we want to figure out how to develop a new Kansas school-based finance formula. And I'll get into that in more detail as far as what that means by school-based. But this is very timely, I think, for the legislature to deal with. First thing I want to point out is that we have a simple fact. That Kansas K-12 schools are spending $3 billion more per year to teach the same number of students. Yet test scores have not increased since 1998. Now when you sink that in just a little bit, we're looking at cost benefit. $3 billion more spent per year now. We doubled the amount per pupil in spending. We're getting the same results. So, as a Kansas educator, I want to tell my colleagues in back of me, as well as you as legislators, I don't come into this just off the turnip truck, as they say. Both my grandparents, my grandmothers were teachers. My parents were teachers. I taught in Kansas in middle school and high school, community college, and at the college level. I've also had the opportunity to serve on, of course, the State Board of Education as well as an elected board in California, where I served also as the budget chair. And I've served as the budget and planning director for a 6-state federal project that had 125 schools in those 6 states. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that from a point of view of somebody who's actually been there and done that, maybe we can shed some light on what's really going on in our classrooms and our schools. And start telling the truth about some of these things that have been out there for a long time, but we really haven't fessed up to what's going on. So one of the things I think it's important to do is to clarify that we can't keep repeating the same false claims and misinformation over and over about the cost-effective decisions, or what that does is prevent you folks as legislators and parents from making cost-effective decisions about how we spend our money. Local school boards are really in a bind. They don't know. They aren't getting accurate information many times. And so consequently, what they assume is not necessarily correct. So we have low test scores. And these have been not because of lack of funding. Obviously, if you've increased and doubled the amount of money spent, you can't blame it on lack of money to say, well, test scores are flat because we didn't get enough money. This is a problem over the United States. It's not just Kansas. This isn't a beat up on Kansas educators presentation. This is a chance to say, all right, let's take a deep, long look at what we're doing here throughout America, as well as in Kansas, and figure this out for our state. Next statement is very important. There is no significant correlation between level of funding and NAEP scores, as claimed by KASB. Now, this is a document that KSB has had out on their website for many, many weeks now. And it says, Kansas performance on national tests rose and fell with funding. There is absolutely no research to back this up. This is absolutely incorrect. It's a conclusion in the title without any fact. So let's take a look at those facts. We have for many years, and for centuries, if you will, for thousands of years, perhaps done rain dances, hoping that we're going to get rain. So we beat the drum, we dance, we shout, we pray, we say, please give us more rain, and sure enough, occasionally we'll get some rain. Is there any relationship? Is there any way that that dance had anything to do? No. Today we know we can predict the weather by looking at weather patterns. And we can use the data from storms clear out in the Pacific to say here in Kansas in 5 days we're going to get a storm. We can predict because we have data. But for many cultures, they continue to do the same thing. They dance, they pray, they shout, they clap, and sure enough, occasionally they get some rain. This is not just confined to our own American Indian culture, but across the continents of Asia and Africa, Australia. But the fact is, there has been no statistically significant increase or decrease in Kansas NAEP scores since 1988. Now, in your Dropbox, you folks have a whole series of documents. There are actually 28. This isn't Walt Chappell saying, hey, folks, we got a problem. These are folks from across the country. And one of those documents is from the National Center for Educational Statistics. It's the nation's report card. It's a one-pager. And what I'd like to have you do is think with me now. How is it that the National Center for Educational Statistics, that has been reporting this data since 1998 to 2000, over and over again we have the same claim, well, Kansas kids are really wonderful. We're doing great things in Kansas. 80% of our kids or more are proficient. That's nonsense. Only 1 in 3 is actually proficient in reading math. Here's the direct quote. In 2015, I'm going to read this because the people in back don't have access to the screen. The average score of 8th grade students in Kansas was 284. Key sentence. This was not significantly different from the average score 281 for public school students in the nation. The average score for students in Kansas in 2015 was lower than their average score in 2013 and was not significantly different from their average score in 2000. Here we are in 2015, 15 years back, we had basically the same score. Hadn't moved the needle one bit, but we spent $3 billion more per year. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Math State Snapshot Report. Percentage of students in Kansas who performed at or above NAEP was 33% in 2015. This percentage was smaller than in 2013 at 40% and was not significantly different from that in 2000. So yes, math scores dropped some, they did across the nation. And that has more to do with Common Core than it does with anything else. We'll get into that perhaps a little bit later. But the fact is, they did not go up or down. They're the same. Now what about the gap? We keep saying, well, we've got to close the gap for any number of reasons. All right? Of course we need to close the gap, but here's the problem. In 2015, black students had an average score that was 27 points lower than that of white students. This performance gap was not significantly different from that in 2000. In 2015, Hispanic students had an average score that was 16 points lower than their white comparative students. This performance gap was not significantly different from that in 2000. Male students, the same. Eligibility for free and reduced lunch, the same. No significant difference. Time and again, these are the data on these one-page sheets right here that have been available to all the educators in the state of Kansas for years. Not just this year, but year after year, this snapshot is put out. And yet we keep hearing, oh, Kansas kids are much better, we're doing much better. Look how we compare to our surrounding states, our peer states. Nonsense. We've got a problem. If only 1 in 3 students is proficient reading, math, and science, that is a problem. So NAEP scores are low in all states, not just Kansas. Only 1/3 of American students are proficient. That's nothing to brag about. That's a concern, I'm sure, for everyone in this room. What's it about ACT. That's another national test. We can compare ourselves to other states. And what we have in Kansas is only about 75% of our juniors or seniors actually take the test. When you realize that another 25% or more in some districts actually drop out of school before they ever get to be a junior, we're not talking about 100% of the kids who started out as ninth graders taking this test. We're talking about 75% of those who actually stay around to complete it. And they show only 32% of those who took the test actually are college ready. And so like Nate, the Kansas AT scores have not significantly improved since 2002. Now this is national data. This is not Walt Chappell or anybody else coming up and saying, let's beat up on educators. That's not what this is about. This is about telling the truth. Getting the facts out so you folks around this table can make some sound decisions. Here it is in graph form. You can see the line right across the base there. That's approximately 21. That's basically where you say, all right, first year of college you might succeed. You might get a C or better. You may get out. That doesn't mean you're going to graduate, but it does mean you may be successful. But look at the spending. The spending is just flying like you're going up a mountain. So most Kansas and American students are not ready for college or career. We don't teach many of our kids career skills. We get them all ready for college, and then when we find out many of those kids can't be successful in college anyway. So to make it appear that more Kansas students proficient, KSDE staff lowered state test scores 3 times. No Child Left Behind gave the impression that we're going to get 100% by 2014. You all remember that. Fortunately, just last week, they got that changed a little bit, said, all right, we're going to have a new Congressional Act of ESEA. But the fact is, we got some major problems here, folks, right here in River City. These test scores that have been reported are bogus. State test scores for years have given the impression to a whole bunch of folks that we are actually moving to 11. So this claim that reading scores of 68 were supposedly proficient. KSE claimed that high school juniors with a math score of 50% meet standards. Definition of proficient. Here's the data. I'm putting it in my hand, I put it on the Dropbox. Anyone in the state can download it and look at it. It took me 4 years in the State Board of Education to get this piece of paper in my hand. I knew it was there, I kept asking for it, they refused to give it. I finally said, wait a minute, we cannot keep putting out a summary at the end of every year claiming all these great things, 85, 80%, look at all these kids, wonderful, wonderful. My God. If you lower the cut scores so every kid can step over the bar, of course you're going to show progress, right? It was a myth. Blowing smoke at folks has got to stop. Claim that science scores, if you get 40%, you're proficient. My God, I was a science teacher. I never gave a kid anything but an F if they got 40% on the test. That wouldn't make any sense, would it? So cut scores are important. Where you set the bar tells you how many kids can jump over. They're the scores. They're in your PowerPoint. They're in your Dropbox. Please take a look. This isn't being made up. This is right straight out of, finally, the Department of Education. In 2009-2013, NAEP rated Kansas assessments and our test scores to be below proficient. They weren't even close to the definition that NAEP used, that ACT used. The cut scores are so low, they said, what is this? Under No Child Left Behind, most state educators did the same thing. So again, this has been a game played across the states to try to fool everyone, I guess, in the nation that somehow we're doing better. But American mediocrity is not really something we should be proud of. It's a cause for great concern. Here's a quote from a study that just came out several weeks ago. It says, overall, the U.S. proficiency rate in math places the country at the 27th rank among 34 OECD countries that participated in a program for international student assessment. That ranking is somewhat lower for students from advantaged backgrounds than it is for those with disadvantaged. What that means is that our, quote, above average kids are doing much lower than the advantaged kids in other countries. Finland, for example, Sweden, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Korea, Japan. You go down a whole list of countries, they're all doing much better than American students. So there's no evidence that disadvantaged students in the United States are actually underperforming other countries' disadvantaged students. We can't use that as a crutch. We can't say, oh, we've got a whole bunch of poverty kids, so therefore they can't learn. Nonsense. Poverty has very little to do with intellectual capability. So the conclusion of that study was that poverty can't explain away America's lackluster academic performance. Now, Kansas claimed in 2013 from the the Kansas Department of Education says, all right, 85% of K-12 students are proficient. That was the claim. The fact is that the NAEP scores showed only 38% proficient, and AC2 scores were only 30% ready for college. So Kansas set cut scores so low that it ranked 39th out of 50 states. This isn't Walt Chappell speaking. This is coming from a report published just this last week, and it comes out, the 2015 report published by the Foundation for Excellence in Education. The data's out there, folks. If we look for it, we can find it. Now, I'm not going to read all this one, but it says very quickly, why does K-12 student proficiency matter? Well, 23% can't qualify for the U.S. military. 74% ACT tests not ready for college. 600,000 vacant manufacturing jobs because they can't find people who can do the work. $7 billion in debt from first-year students who are taking courses they should have learned in high school. This is nothing to be proud of, folks. This is real stuff. And it's not just coming from me specifically, but from people who have looked at this very carefully. So in 2006, we have, and I apologize to my colleague in the back, Mr. Scott Frank, he's throwing a curveball. I have a lot of respect for Scott. I'm going to say that publicly. I told it to him in his face. But he was given misleading information. You cannot take those cut scores that were lowered so down and say, all right, look at all this one-to-one relationship. There is no one-to-one relationship between funding and scores. If you guys make those cut scores so low that it appears like everyone's rising, you're going up, my God, what is the conclusion? You were lied to, folks. You cannot do a study that the legislature authorizes and expect results if you use faulty data. Garbage in, garbage out. So I apologize to my friends, but there is, in fact, no relationship. It's important to get that fact right out in front of everyone. Okay, let's take a look at the one that comes up. In that same report, it was 353 pages. One of the things that was quoted here in this hearing was one sentence out of that 353 that there's supposedly a one-to-one relationship. Dale Dennis has repeated that over and over again. Testimony in the Supreme Court, before the State Board of Education, before you. It's nonsense. It cannot keep being repeated. In that same report, page 107, it says there have been all kinds of studies looked at. We can't find any conclusion that yes or no. Some say yes, some say no. The fact in Kansas, it's no. So where has the $3 billion a year gone? What I have done to help this process along is prepare an amicus brief. It's in the Gannon Supreme Court case. It was filed in 2013. Please read it. Please take time to go through it. It follows the longitudinal data for many years to make sure that you can see very clearly where the funds have been spent and what the results have been. Now, educators, unfortunately, I can speak as an educator. I've seen this in my own family. I've seen it in the schools I've taught in. I'm not trying to browbeat my colleagues in the education field. I'm just trying to put it out there very simply that we have a herd mentality. There's a tendency on the part of many educators to comply, to follow whatever the bureaucrats say should be done, You say, okay, I guess that's what we've got to do. Now we've got a problem. If any of you have gone through the Flint Hills or been a rancher, you understand you got a cow, decides to go somewhere, and sure enough, you see those paths, they're all worn deep with one hoof after another following that same cow. And they can have a whole big range to go through, but those cow paths are very specific. They are one after another. So we do in education much the same. Some fad starts, other people say, let's do that. Then once you get a few folks doing it, well, they get all pointing the same direction. Sure enough, everyone's doing it. It must be fine. It must be great. Everyone's doing it. But why? Do we ever stop and ask, okay, did we really have any benefit? What's this costing us? Why are we doing all this stuff? All right? Conformity without evidence is a recipe for failure. And we've seen that over and over again in education. You see it in some other fields, but we're really vulnerable to this because teachers are taught to be compliant. But conformity is a hazard. It contains possible new information which may stimulate independent thought. That's what we're here about today. So here's the problem. If you got strong pressures from the KSE and from their national conventions, you have them down in Wichita every year, there's several $1 million spent, and it's a kind of brainwash deal. I've been there. I'm saying it very specifically. There's not much dialogue. It's the top saying to the bottom, hook here's what you're supposed to do, here's the program you're supposed to implement, and we want you to do it with, quote, integrity. But what about the unintended consequences? Do we ever stop to think, all right, if we do that, what is it going to cost, and how many kids are actually going to benefit? So nationwide, we have a spending on education that's gone up, but scores have nationwide. And after Montoy, the state legislature invested, as I say, billions of dollars, $8 billion more per year, but most of it was spent to hire 9,000 new employees. Now, 80% of your costs are personnel in education. If you're going to hire 9,000 more employees, you're going to eat up a hell of a lot of money very quickly. And that's what's happened. It didn't go into raising teachers' salaries, which is where I think it should have gone, to those teachers that are excelling and doing well in the classroom. Instead, it went to implementing some very experimental programs. Now, one of them is something that's going to be hard to talk about, but we've got to do it. All across this country, districts are asking themselves, why are we spending so much money on varsity sports? No other state, or no other nation spends money on varsity sports in their K-12 public schools. No other nation. They do club sports and may get together after school and play together, on a soccer field, but it's not the taxpayers paying for that, it's the parents. And Kansas spends more on K-12 varsity sports than to teach students employable skills. I'll let that sink in for a minute. We're spending more to send the kids out to play football on Friday night or basketball, to get to the tournament, to get to the playoffs, whatever. They get first pick. With the school bus, the coaches, the extra salaries. You've seen some of those spreadsheets. They're buried in numbers of coaches and assistant coaches and trainers and all down the line. Where's the money being spent for the science club, for the robotics club, for the automotive mechanics club, for the welders? I don't care what you want to talk about. We have many skills we could be teaching our kids and making that a priority, but no, we've got to spend it on winning that next game. Now this is an Atlantic article that says, the United States routinely spends more tax dollars per high school athlete than per high school math student. Think about that. More money per high school athlete than per high school math students. And unlike most countries worldwide, we wonder why now, here in America, why we lag behind in the national education standard. Why is it we are baffled if we're spending so much of our time and money and thought on winning that Friday night game? Another one is the multi-tiered system of services. I want to make it very clear to you folks. West Ed is a consulting firm that's hired by the State Department of Education. I repeatedly asked Diane DeBacker and Dale Dennis, please include costs in that analysis, not just whether or not people feel good about it. What's it costing us to implement MTSS? They refuse to do it. They refuse to add it to the contract. But the contract now comes back with a report in March of this year. It says no data to show that MTSS has improved special ed or regular ed student achievement. Period. Let me read it to you directly from their report. This is from their report on page 3. However, hard data on student achievement improvement are not available statewide. State assessment data are inconclusive as to any patterns or trends in the achievement level of schools implementing MTSS. That's their conclusion. That's their fact. We don't have any evidence to show that all this millions of dollars we're spending on MTS is actually helping any of our kids. Another thing that we need to deal with is the fact that other nations require students who are non-speakers of that native language to first pass the proficiency test. If I'm going to go to Spain or Russia or to China, wherever, I'm going to have to learn that language before I can sit in their classroom. How would I learn anything? I don't understand what the teacher's saying. But here in this country, we stick kids in our classrooms and we expect them somehow to excel. They don't know what's going on, many of them, and so it's a real problem. And here's the rest of it. Our American universities already have the standard. They use TOEFL, and you have to pass that exam that shows you can read and understand English, and move right on into the courses after. You get credit for the courses you take after you pass that exam. Now we've got another issue here. We're spending approximately $480 million on that one problem of trying to take care of these kids that are coming in that don't speak English in our classroom. The point I'm trying to make is that having MTSS special ed students plus ELL students who don't speak or read English in academic classes forces the teachers to slow down instruction for all students. It's very expensive and keeps Kansas students from learning at their own pace. So not only is it costing more to provide all these ELL teachers and to pay the parents to take care of MTSS, but now you slow the pace down so the kids who are trying to learn at their own rate, move on, get on with the instruction, they're held back. And you wonder why our test scores are low? Common Core is another one. We're spending millions of dollars to implement Common Core. It's not more rigorous, folks. It is, there's no evidence that Common Core are higher or will improve student learning. We have no data anywhere in the nation. I've followed this since before 2010. Now, Common Core math standards are what to teach. That's what you have as a standard. But the publishers, like McGraw-Hill, Pearson, and so forth, have gone out to say, hey, look, let's change how you teach. You have to buy all these materials and all this software and all these tests. We're going to sell you all this stuff to show you, quote, how to teach math a new way. And as some of you around this table have pointed out, it's nonsense. It isn't working. And scores all over the country have dropped. And a large part of it is because there's this total confusion about how to add 2 plus 2 is 4. So, over the past 2 years, CETE has spent $12 million to develop and implement a Common Core aligned online test. The first testing failed, didn't it? We couldn't get any results, and their servers were hacked. Results from this spring's test are still not reported to parents, as far as I know. Some districts may have, others haven't. But they just came out, didn't they? They just came out for districts, are just getting reported. The Wichita Eagle yesterday reported in their board meeting on Monday. The scores are dismal. Well, they've been dismal. This is no surprise. They've been dismal for years. We just haven't told the truth. Okay? Kansas still has 225 school districts that receive $200 million in low enrollment weighting. That's baked into the block grant, by the way, folks. It's baked in. That inefficiency is baked into the block grant. Many of those small districts are not financially viable. They can't stand on their own without that welfare check coming from the state legislature. It is a real problem. We have too many tiny, small school districts, and this is really an issue. But the legislature has the constitutional authority to reorganize school district boundaries, and once done, $500 million per year can be redirected into K-12 classrooms, and here's another part of that key, without raising taxes or cutting other state programs. You folks in this legislature are coming up against a wall. This session, you've got to take some hard decisions. How you do that, I'm not sure. You're getting cut from all sides. Everybody wants to express their opinion. Bottom line is, there's money out there to put into classrooms without raising taxes or cutting other state programs like the mental health, for corrections, for public safety. You do not have to cut anybody. The money's already there.